Hey everybody, producer Christian here. We just had a great episode with Lisa Mitchell. Lisa,
Hi.
she's so awesome. She talks about body language and all the things that you need to know when you start interacting with people, and she's a ninja with this sort of thing.
Hot tips. Lots of hot tips.
Sorry, lots of hot tips, so don't miss it. It's going to be out on YouTube, and it's also on our Facebook Live if you catch us there. And, of course, on our podcast. Later. Am I done?
Gesticulate together as a team, as a family of five.
That sounds like you need hand sanitizer.
Well, you know, we're not afraid to do that. Todd, stop. That's an awkward gesture. We're on video now, Todd. That's not good. Todd's tickling each person via camera. Over on the 4-shot, which is a 5-shot today. That's good. We'll get to that. Hey, gang. We want to welcome you to the Boom Real Estate Podcast. We want to hear from you. We want to gesticulate with you over the internet. That is one of my favorite words, gesticulate.
I've heard it 4 times.
I know.
You're on a roll.
Email info@boomrealestatepodcast.com and then subscribe and share. And we've got the new YouTube as well, so we want to invite you to that also. So we have so much going on right now. So many things going on. Christian is off mic. He's so defeated. I know. I didn't think about it. I looked across the table and I said that to Christian, and then I realized he can't respond. It's like he's got laryngitis, and you're like, oh, I can't talk to you. That's how it goes. So we're trying to navigate, like we're doing Facebook Live right now too, while we podcast and while we YouTube and video and do all these things. This is a bit of a new setup, so we're getting it worked out. We're getting it worked out. So that's what matters. But we're excited because we have a guest with us today. Oh, in studio even. Look, normally, not yet, Megan. Just calm down.
Can I just?
Do you know every time that we've said we've had a studio guest or a guest in, people didn't believe us.
Oh, they didn't?
They just thought we made it up, and then Megan would do an incredible accent.
Oh, she'd
I'm
throw
good
her
at
voice.
impersonations.
She's so good at that.
We don't get a lot of people. We have people when we go to like a conference, we'll interview people there, and that's normal. And we have people that will Skype in. Most people, though, are afraid to come to the podcast command center.
Not me,
and,
man.
And hang out with us, but Lisa's not afraid.
Nope.
She's serious.
Came under the hood of Fishers.
Fearless.
That's
like,
right.
I can do it.
Just brave Fishers. It's
I just
sometimes
put
you gotta
on,
do it.
a little Kendrick Lamar and pray for me and hit the road
That's
and hope
it.
for the best.
That's
Next
all you
thing
can
I know,
do.
I'm in the driveway and all is well.
And you're down in the subterranean podcast command center, which is really exciting. Okay, so Lisa Mitchell, she's our guest today. Let me do the introduction.
Bring her in.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll bring her in. Okay, so Lisa Mitchell, she is the founder of Power Body Language.
Boom.
She is known as the people reader.
Boom.
Nope, can't say that anymore. It's human decoder now.
All right, hold on. Let me start over.
Redo.
All right,
You
so
trying to get me sued?
No.
Human
So
decoder.
hold on.
Just told you about this.
I know. But see, I prepped this.
She
stuff
is
last night. Hold on.
formerly known as the people reader.
I do read people.
Okay, hold on. I retyped
It is
my notes.
always our goal to get our guests sued
Thank you.
somehow.
You don't have to totally restart, Christian.
What is happening?
Let me just restart the intro.
This was a professional operation.
All right, ready in 3, 2. I'm just kidding. We're not. We're just going with it live. We'll do it live. That was your chance, Christian.
I know, but I can't.
So much going on. Okay,
We are really good at this.
Lisa Mitchell. She is the founder of Power Body Language.
Boom.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
Sorry. I'm good. Okay, hold on.
I can't do it. We'll do it live.
We'll do it live. Calm down.
Fun to watch this out.
Calm down, Bill. Okay, she's the founder of Power. This is the worst intro we've ever had to Lisa Mitchell. But at least we're live. Like normally we fix it in post, but there's no
Right.
doing that now. We're with Lisa Mitchell today.
Yes.
She is the founder of Power Body Language.
Boom.
She's formerly known as the people reader. I deleted that. I deleted
You
that.
said formally.
She is now known
Yes.
as the human decoder.
Correct.
Which I
Yes.
love. She is a top expert in body language and not Christian's shutting down his body language. She's a top expert in body language and nonverbal skills training.
Boom.
She's the host of the podcast and YouTube shows Shiny Things, The Lisa Mitchell Show, and No Shiny Plastics. She has 3 shows. We have one, and we
3
can
times
obviously
what we're doing.
barely keep it
Show
together.
off.
It takes 4 of us for one. There's one of her, and she's got 3. She coaches executives across industries to help them achieve their personal and professional goals. She's a national speaker, trainer, and coach. Ladies and gentlemen, Lisa Mitchell. We're out of time. That's unfortunate, but no. But okay, so that was literally the worst we've ever done.
Well, I'm
on the
so
intro.
happy to be here.
Yeah, that's a shame.
I think we learned a valuable lesson today, which is try not to have somebody with as deep a resume as a Lisa Mitchell.
You forgot forensic interviewing and interrogation and jury selection too, but that's a different show. I'll come back.
We'll do another one.
Yeah.
Let's just
We'll
talk
be
about
way
that.
more put together next time.
Interrogation techniques.
We're gonna do a live interrogation later.
Do it again, Terry.
Okay.
Do it again.
Today we've got Lisa Mitchell, She's the founder of Power Body. Okay, so the one thing I'm not going to ask you.
Now what's happening?
Christian, starting over. Do it
Oh
again.
my God.
We'll do it live. Oh, Facebook Live. Sorry, Facebook Live. It's not going
Hang
well.
in there, guys.
Anyone
in there.
who's missing this should be very sad.
I know,
By the
right?
way.
This is we've really achieved a pinnacle here of podcasting so far. But my assumption when you come in to a room like this is because you're a body language person and like an expert and you do all this stuff is that everyone says, like, everyone's super self-conscious and they're like, well, what am I saying to you right now? Like, you know, and I promised myself I would not do that.
How's that working for you?
Not well.
What I'm reading is
I'm
that
reading
you have
shame.
a little bit of anxiety
Yes, that's
around
right.
this.
That's right. I'm reading shame
I
and
have the
disgust.
high level of blocking to keep me from reading you.
Well, you can see
You
the
know,
tears
face
from where
touching
you're
because
sitting.
you have
That's what it
anxious
is.
behaviors.
Oh,
It's
now
okay.
she's play-by-playing it.
man.
We can decode really
Yeah,
if you want
that's
to,
right,
but I won't
she
because that
is-
would be weird,
I'm
and
a
I don't want
total
to make you
face
weird.
Oh, make it so weird.
Yeah.
That's
I
what
think
we're all about.
I think
is
we've done
weird,
it. I think
really.
we've
I feel
done
like
it,
me
gang.
just sitting here has done a sufficient job of making things weird today.
I
We're-
am
we're
perfectly
good.
comfortable, with the exception of the whole show has fallen apart to this point. Other than that, I
Can I
feel
tell you
good.
the one thing, and not to get ahead, but I know that like when you cross your arms, it's a bad thing, right? Like,
Yes,
No.
it's always bad in every
There is
circumstance.
there's no good or bad. There's no good or bad. It's what are you seeing, what's causing it, and the context around it,
Yeah.
right? So
Well-
there's like all these ways to be accurate in your decoding because there's a lot of crap out there about
Right.
if you look down and to the left you're lying.
Yeah.
Wrong.
Yeah, see,
right?
I always thought that was
Wrong.
crap.
No.
Yeah,
Yes.
I
Good.
thought
See,
so.
you're so smart. I knew
No,
you were
you
the
don't have
smart
to
one.
build me up. It's too late now. She said I was the smart one. With producer Christian sitting right there, she said that.
I'm just trying to make it feel less awkward.
No, I
around me.
appreciate that. I appreciate
A
that.
little
So,
validation.
so we've learned that crossing your arms is bad.
Well, yeah. So
No, we did
oh,
not
wait.
learn that.
That was a
I'm
joke.
I thought you were serious
Lisa,
at first.
that was
I
a
like
joke.
I'm
jumped
taking
in.
the headphones off.
I was
I'm leaving.
joking.
You dropped
She
my
stormed
gone.
out of the
I'm gone.
podcast studio.
I can't deal with this.
Nobody's listening to
Where
me here.
were you going somewhere with that?
well, I was just gonna say like there's times where I don't have pockets,
Right.
and I don't know what to do with my hands.
I don't know what to do with my
I
hands.
don't
like
know
that's-
what
what do I do?
Question
So-
one: what do we do with our hands?
Yeah, context. Keep them visible, always visible, not jazz hands, not jazz hands, but visible. Because
Are you
hands
sure?
are, well, here, let's think about this, right? You want some science? Can we start with science? Is it too
Oh, yeah.
early?
As long as it's
Never.
quick and
Have we
brief,
had
we'll
enough
move on.
shenanigans to introduce some science?
I like to
Oh,
bring-
we're just getting
Bring
started.
on the science.
Okay, so here's how brains work, right? We have about like a second maybe where our limbic brain is figuring out with every person that comes into our awareness, are they a threat? Right? Because the
Okay.
limbic brain's job,
Okay.
caveman days, keep you alive.
Okay.
Right? So instantly your alarm is almost always ready to go off, and then it's up to the person on the other side of your face to say, ring the alarm, freeze, fight, flight, or hey, we're cool, let's be friends.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So your job as the suspect on the other side of someone's face is just calm the alarm.
Yeah.
And the easiest way you can do that, the way you can turn that alarm off most quickly and start gaining trust with someone, is to keep your hands visible. So don't have them in your
Interesting.
pockets. Don't have them behind your back. Don't be carrying a bunch of junk when you walk into a meeting, especially if you're going for negotiations or you're meeting a
Yeah.
new client.
Yeah.
Right? Just keep your hands visible and loose. Don't jazz hands it because that causes suspicion for all
That's
sorts
awkward.
of
I have
other
to rethink
reasons.
my whole listing presentation.
I face palm. The moment I meet somebody, I just put my hand
Oh.
into their face.
Oh, you palm
So
their
they see
face.
Yeah, that's, don't.
My hands are right here,
Right.
visible at all times.
I feel like we're gonna need more time.
Yes.
Yeah, and then
But
keeping your hands visible through a transaction. Like if
Yeah.
you're talking contracts, talking numbers, anytime you're really like wanting to
Yeah.
gain trust and show you're disclosing, keeping hands visible throughout, even if you use a prop like a pen or a coffee mug or something, just keep at least one hand visible to keep that alarm from sounding in somebody's brain. They don't know that there's an alarm going off. They just know if they feel good or bad about you.
Yeah.
And so you want them to draw the right conclusion about you really quickly and really easily. So you just play off how their brain works and then solve their questions.
Right.
Amazing.
So immediately you could play that into real estate side, a listing appointment, like you were going to go into a listing appointment. You're going to meet somebody for the
Always.
first time. Anytime you're meeting them for the first time, just that's good. I like
and
that.
even if you're meeting a client in the driveway to walk up to see a property, right?
Yeah.
Like, are you bogged down with junk? Can they see your hands? Are you gaining trust right away as you're getting out of your car, right? Because first impressions start before you open your mouth. And every time you walk into a space with someone, you're essentially forming a first impression, whether they already know you or not.
Yeah.
So each time you kind of have to start with that foundation to get the outcome, build the relationship, and really, gaining trust in your industry is paramount.
Huge.
That is a hot
It's a hot tip.
So
I don't know what that is, but I want that all the time.
yeah, I know, just to follow you
walk
around.
around
just
with
That
to-
should be my ringtone.
It should
It's a hot tip.
It works.
play it.
So yes, but we as real estate agents, we feel like a lot of times we have two strikes against us because like people think we're going to be super salesy. People think
Right.
we're going to be high pressure, and there's that assumption like, if you're doing an open house or if you're meeting clients for the first time or if
Right.
you're interviewing for a listing, you feel like I've got to overcome to start off with and show them I'm like a regular person. I'm not going to try to be pushy and all that
Right.
stuff. But like that first impression is everything.
Absolutely. I don't know that. I mean, other than maybe, medical providers, right? Like,
Right.
trust
Yeah.
is super important for you guys.
Yep.
Anyone that's handling money, medicine, or where my family's going to live, right? Like,
Yeah,
people
yeah.
are really like emotionally triggered by those topics.
Yeah.
So yeah, you guys have your work cut out for you, right? Because you have the reputation. You have a few people that have had bad experiences, and that's what you hear about more than people that really do it great and build rapport.
Right.
Some of my favorite people in the world are real estate agents, people I've done business with multiple times because I just love them as people so much.
You talking about us right now?
Well,
three
now
of us, 'cause
now
it's
you're
gone
part
so
of
well.
that tribe, but
Oh,
I didn't know you. I didn't know you before.
She's like, I from the moment I saw these guys, I knew these guys
just
are my
knew.
best friends,
I just knew
and
it.
I know a lot of real estate agents who are now my best friends because I was on their podcast and it was amazing.
So the tribe grows, right? That's how it happens.
Aw.
Moments of trust. The circle of trust expands.
I felt like
Let
I
me
should ding
flip
the
it. I'm going to flip it over if that's okay.
Sure.
So we're talking about when we're meeting with clients for the first time, trying to gain their trust right away, different ways that you
Right.
can do that. What about for us as agents for our clients?
Would it
when
be
we're-
helpful to decode the bull crappers from the
Yes.
legit people?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
That'd
Yeah.
be really good.
Yeah. So the way body language works, at least the way I train it, is there's offense and defense, right? I'm a sports geek, so playbook really resonates with me. Offense is how you manage yourself, how you're dealing with the energy in your space, the impression that you're creating, and then the defense is how do you decode, right? How do you read what's happening on the other side of your face? Because you need those data points, especially as real estate agents or anyone in sales. You need the data points to know, where am I with this
Right.
person,
Yeah.
right? And people's bodies are really, really honest, more so than their words. So what will happen a lot of times is people that are either kicking tires or aren't serious or don't like something but don't want to hurt your feelings, depending on personality type, this is going to show up in lots of different ways. But they'll tell you something and then their body will either confirm it and affirm the statement, or their body will be incongruent and will actually contradict their verbal statement, right? Because our bodies hate when we lie. So it's always telling on us. There's like 17 statistical cues to deception that our body will like leak
Yeah.
how we actually feel because it hates negative consequences, and lying has consequences.
Yeah.
So again, a self-protection, survival, your body is like, be honest, be honest, be honest. And your words and your logical mind is like, screw that. I'm going to tell them what they want to hear and get out of here.
Yeah.
Right? So there's all these little cues and kind of clusters of cues that you can read that will give you the honest statement.
Yeah.
Sometimes it matches the word, sometimes it doesn't. But it's good to know if there's incongruency, because then you can start asking more questions or figuring out what you're missing and circle back. And then the effect of that is that you look like you're an emotionally intelligent genius, because you're answering questions and meeting needs that they haven't even verbally expressed to you yet.
Yeah.
And they're just like, oh, he gets me. She
Yeah.
gets me.
Yeah.
She's so clued in. Like, we're totally connected. Right? But really, it's just you've been reading what they've told you all along.
Yeah.
Right.
I love you. Would you just, can I just take you with me?
Yeah,
Can
will
we
you just
like,
follow
can
us
we
around
just-
and
That'll make the tickle fight later so much less awkward.
we just need you like over our shoulder, like the president has guys that like whisper in his ears. You'd be like,
I can do hidden camera if you want to do a transaction and I'll decode it in real time and whisper in an earpiece.
The earpiece. Yes. We have a whole new show on our hands.
I want to do that. That's
That would be
I
a great
actually have
show.
pitched a show similar to that.
Yes.
That where I would just do like ambush, like body
Amazing.
language ambush, where I would go in and decode situations.
What if
in
you?
real
brilliant.
Oh,
time.
this is the greatest
watch
idea
that.
ever. We're gonna pitch this to major networks out
Yes.
there.
It's
So
already
everybody that's
happening.
listening,
You're
don't. Well, this
behind,
is a
Todd.
twist
Yeah,
on
but
it.
we're gonna jump on what you already have working
Fantastic.
and ride
Yes.
your coattails
Join.
to success.
So
That's the
everybody
plan.
that's listening or watching right now, just close your eyes and ears and don't listen in
Right.
to this
Oh.
incredible idea. But we do a dating show.
No, talk
It's
quiet.
already
Hey,
pitched.
Dang it!
It's happening.
And each person has somebody two different. Dang it! I hate America.
I know.
They're so
What
good.
happens when you have
They're
really good
so
media
good.
agents running your machine, right? Yeah.
There are no original ideas.
There
Tonight.
aren't.
Everybody's thought of
But
everything.
we
It's
could do
over.
an indie local version.
We
There
could do
you
an
go.
indie local version.
Yeah.
What if we did one where we had two animals? Has anybody come up with that
You
idea?
know, horses are actually better at reading human microexpressions than humans are.
See?
Like, you can lead a horse on a trail without any reins or anything because it will follow your body language if it trusts you.
But you can't make them eat the water.
You can't make them drink.
Eat the water.
Right. No eating water.
Eat the water.
Oh my gosh. How did
Are
that
horses
even
good with
happen?
each other too? Like I can tell by his shank. That,
Shame.
look at his shank. Yeah, that's a part
don't
of
know
the
what
shank.
I don't know what that means, so I'm not going to confirm or deny
the
that.
flank,
Is it like
the shank.
Oh my-
No, there's a shank.
No, I think that's in prison.
Bang it.
Terry.
I was going to say,
Bang
isn't
it.
that like Shawshank
Bang it.
Redemption,
when you're
like
in
when you stab
prison,
people
yep,
with...
you make a shank in prison.
We gotta bing it and find out. I'm not afraid.
I
I'm
don't
not afraid
even know
to
what
find
happened.
out. We have a lot of sounders and things.
I
with
don't have that
fire,
in
so-
my basis of science knowledge, so I'm not going to...
Get back to interviewing.
Hold on a second. I'm about to be proven right.
What am I here for?
The shank is okay. It's a person's leg, especially the part from the knee to the ankle. So again, are you well versed
So
in
that's like
shank
a
reading?
shankle?
A shank.
Shin and an ankle. Shankle.
Oh, maybe
Just
that
a
is where
relative of the kinkle.
that actually might be where that came from. Now that I think about it.
What are we
Okay.
even talking about?
What were we
Why am I
talking
here?
about?
Hey, remember that time you called Terry the smart one?
Do you remember that? Can I retract that? I feel like I didn't have enough context.
This is a career low
evaluate-
light.
Yes,
You didn't have enough data points.
I evaluated a little too
But
early.
I made a good first impression, and now I've had too much exposure to people, and
Oh.
it ruins it.
It's about collecting evidence, right? The more evidence you collect on
yes.
somebody, you're proven right or wrong.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So we were talking about when you're with a client or
Yes.
prospect, how to read how they're responding.
Are
to
there
you
give
or
us
the
like
house or
some
whatever.
specific examples of either side, whether it's the agent or it's the client, just these ones that like you see more prevalent than others that we need to be aware of and cognizant of.
Yeah, well, incongruency is kind of the concept I go back to because that's really a good little red flag type thing to look for that you can easily spot because it's usually pretty blatant. So when we say something that we philosophically disagree with or emotionally or in contrast to, like our body corrects us, right? Wants whoever we're communicating to see the truth to avoid negative consequences. So for instance, if you ask somebody, you know, is this, you know, what you thought it would be, or if this is this what you were expecting? And they say, yeah, it looks great. But so they're saying, yeah, but their
Well,
head
their
is
head was-
shaking
yeah.
no, right? So incongruent head nodding is one that's really, really
Wow.
common. Or if it's like, oh, you know, is this, you know, if you're working on numbers or doing an offer or something, you know, and you say, you know, is this hitting it? Or are you comfortable with this? But then you get maybe an arms crossed and maybe they turn their torso away, or maybe a chin jut. Like chin juts are really strong about anger.
Chin
Right?
jut.
Chin
Yeah.
jut.
So for
just
the
a little,
listening
like-
audience, what does that mean?
It's just when you get a little, you know, I always say, what's up, right? And you
Oh,
get the
yeah.
head
Your
tilt
head goes
back a
up.
little bit.
Yeah.
And it's usually very, very quick. And
Yeah.
it's usually accompanied with an agreement statement that they don't agree with. Or
Ah.
if you
Like
say,
what?
does that
Like
sound
what?
fair?
Interesting.
You know, does that sound fair to you? And they're
Yeah.
like, yeah. But then you get
And they
like
chin
a
jut it.
cluster
They
of
chin
behaviors
jut it.
that says, no, I really hate what you said, and I'm going to go home and never call you back again.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna call him out on that. Like if I ever see, I'm just gonna chin jut.
You chin jutted.
You just
Yeah.
chin jutted.
I know you're lying. I can tell you're lying
and
right now.
Well, so there's this whole
They'll
like
love that.
the other thing that would be really great for agents to clue in and have some education around would be the concept of micro expressions. And so micro expressions are really brief, intense flashes of true emotion that people show in response to some sort of catalyst. So it can be something you say, something you do, something you make them think, right? And it flashes on your face 1/10 to 1/25 of a second. So super fat, super
Yeah.
quick, truth. And then we as adults fear judgment and don't want conflict. So then we neutralize our face and we pick another expression, right? So if you're not paying attention, when you drop a really important or emotionally charged piece of information, and this is professionally or personally,
Right.
works the same at home.
Yeah.
When you drop a piece of information, if you really want to know what somebody thinks, you got to catch that flash.
Right away.
Right? And then you can choose to either buy into what they display to you or you can challenge them back, but at
Right.
least you have that data point to say,
Yeah.
you know, and there's some universal. So there's contempt, like contempt is a really strong one. Contempt is a one-sided mouth raise. So if you have anybody that smirks as their default expression, they probably don't like you.
Oh.
Or if you say something and they
Christian,
get
stop smirking at me.
right.
I don't. I want to I want to just clear that up though. But when she said smirk, I immediately smirked.
On cue, you
Yeah,
did?
so I
Right.
don't want you to know that wasn't
It's
me saying I
reflect-
hate you.
I don't care
It
if you
was
do, but
I
I'm
hurt
just
you.
I'm all right. I think we're all right. But what you need to be aware of, right, is so some people smirk by default, right? Like that
Yeah.
half smile,
Yeah.
they think it's like a pleasant expression. Like you don't want to commit to a full
Yeah.
smile, but you don't want to be flat faced because
Yeah.
then there's RBF and that's a whole nother thing you have to deal with.
Resting face.
Yes.
Rusty
Oh,
face.
yeah.
I was
It's a
just
thing.
gonna say
It's
that
a
in
science. It
minute,
really is
yeah.
a science thing.
Is it?
Yeah. So people will default
much
to
to talk
this
about.
like half smile
Yeah.
thing, right? Well, and so the this is intention and perception. The intention is pleasant. I'm like half happy, right?
Yeah.
The perception of the person on the other side of your face who's reading you is subconsciously decoding that as contempt, which is very strong.
Subconsciously.
Disdain, like they're just getting that feeling.
Yeah, they're getting that vibe from you.
Right. And like agents or, attorneys are famous for this and like, because there's digital first impressions too. What do people's profile pictures look like on LinkedIn?
Yeah.
Turned away and a half smile. It's like, I hate
Yeah,
you
yeah.
and I'm blocking you.
Right, right.
Like that's how people are reading you. Your intention is professional or stoic
Right.
or whatever, but you have
Yeah.
to get over yourself, quit being self-focused and think about what is the person on the other side of my face
Yes. How are they receiving you,
feeling
right?
about this. How
Yeah,
are they
yeah.
experiencing me?
Yes.
And that's where a lot of people in all industries fail. Is like we think about how we're intentional about what we think we want, but
Yeah.
then the person on the other side of us, because of how we're showing up, is getting a totally different message.
Yeah.
And then conflict and miscommunication happens and you get surprised by people's like, God, I thought that went so well. And it's like,
Right.
well, no,
Right.
you showed up how you thought you needed to, but you
Yep.
didn't meet their need and now
missed
they
it
hate
all.
you.
Yes.
So let me ask you that real life nugget for all of our realtors that are listening out there. 50% of realtors, it's a statistic that I made up.
Yes.
But it's probably true.
Do we
Fif-
make up facts here? Is
Yes,
that a
we
thing?
do, yeah.
Oh my
Made up
God,
facts.
that just
You said
opened
that
up
so
a whole new
seriously.
window.
Yeah.
But
that's right.
literally, like if you look at realtor photos, 50% of them are arms crossed,
They're horrible.
slightly
Yeah.
They
turned
say, I
away.
hate you, and I.
Yeah.
Whoa, sorry. I have things flying in front of my face unexpectedly here.
So that's a real life nugget right there that a lot of our realtors
Yes.
can look at and be
Right,
like,
yep.
"What's your profile
Yeah.
photo? Is
Yeah.
it crossed arms?"
And so one
leaning away?
of the things that I do when I train realtors or executives is we do like a digital inventory, and we
Yeah.
say where could anyone be making a first impression of you?
Yeah.
Facebook pictures, LinkedIn,
Mm-hmm.
videos, because people screw themselves in videos so often, like not on purpose, but they just don't know any better.
Yeah.
So it's like where let's do a total inventory of everywhere you are digitally, because so many people get met for the first time
Right.
online now. Like
Yeah,
you don't
sure.
even get to make your own first
Yes.
impression. It's already done
Yeah.
a lot of times before you get in somebody's space. Voicemail audits, right? Tone of voice, how your voice conveys things.
Mm-hmm.
First impression. So you do a total professional audit of how you're packaged. How if I'm meeting you for the first time by your voicemail or by your Twitter profile or by your LinkedIn picture,
Yeah.
how likely am I to want to do business with you?
Yeah.
Right.
Right? And not how you feel you need to show up, but
Right.
how do your clients?
Right.
What is your client expecting of you? Because we miss the mark so often.
Yep.
And then you have an uphill battle when you do get in somebody's
Right.
space. If they even contact you, like it may in there and be like, he looks like I'm not going to do business with him.
Yep.
Right? See, I bleeped myself there, Christian.
you.
Sometimes
Buzzer.
sometimes I have awareness.
There you go.
Yeah. I did it. You didn't even have to push it. I just did it myself. That's the joys of having a 12-year-old. You have to learn how to edit yourself and just let it run internally and then try really hard not to say it out loud.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but it's really taking ownership because we leave so many things to chance and we miss so many opportunities.
Yep.
And it's the same thing whether you're going after listings or interpersonally if you're dating and trying to make impressions that way. Like this is the same set of science applies regardless. It's just how do you know in the context that you're working in, what your outcome is, and then how do you use science in your favor
Yeah.
and help people draw the right conclusions about you.
Right.
We need like 15 more hours with you,
Yes.
just so you know.
Wow.
So
Clear your
I-
schedule.
if you can
Right.
just get rid of everything else. You mentioned video, which is something we definitely
Yes.
wanted to talk to you about, because it has been a huge wave in the real estate world, but it continues to get bigger and bigger. And what we hear from agents mostly are, I don't want to be on video. I don't like myself,
Right.
so we overcome that. But you mentioned there's other tips you need to know so we don't screw ourselves on video.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that people try to do is be something else.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
people are very, especially with the prevalence of digital media now, people are very savvy about picking up inauthentic people.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's almost as damaging to be too polished and too buttoned down
Oh.
than to just show up and be yourself,
Yeah.
right? And people want to know what they're going to connect with in person. You know, one of the things I work with my clients a lot is I'll meet them out at an event and they're charming and charismatic and engaging and we have a great conversation, and then I see a video of them online or they post a video or I get an email from them even, and it's a totally different representation of that person, and then I distrust them because you showed me one thing and now you're showing me something else.
Yeah.
And I can't trust you,
Yeah.
right? As a consumer, I'm instantly turned off
Yeah.
by that disparity. So it's determining what is your brand.
Okay.
Who
Yeah.
are you when you're showing up in spaces and places? Like I had a podcast with Nicole Arbor, who's got 600 million views on her videos. She's one of the biggest social influencers ever. And the one thing that she said that I loved is that I said, how do you manage all the different places and the rooms that you're in?
Yeah.
And she said, I show up the same no matter what room I'm
yeah.
walking
So
into.
good.
She said,
Yep.
when you show up as yourself, it's so easy to maneuver. She's like, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter if it's a room full of millionaires and celebrities or whether, you know, it's my family.
that.
I show up the same way. She said, now,
Yeah.
obviously, when I'm doing a video or I'm on, it's a little amped up version of me.
Right.
But it's so close to how I operate in my normal space that
Right.
she's like, I don't ever have to worry about walking into a room because
Yeah.
I'm exactly the same no matter
Yeah.
who's on the other side.
I love it.
And I think any professional in any industry could really gain a lot of trust
Right.
and
Yeah.
likability and be seen as more charismatic if you showed up the same or at least a very close version of yourself, maybe more amped up depending on
Yeah.
Right.
what you're there to do. But make it easy on yourself. Be congruent, because that's the biggest trust killer is when you're showing up in different representations of yourself. People are like, I don't know what's true about you.
Right.
I can't trust you about anything
Yep.
else.
Yeah.
I think authenticity is like the biggest word that we're hearing
Yeah.
in general. And I think number one, it's so much more fun when you're you all the time,
Yeah.
and it's easy.
Assuming
and
you
you're
don't
not
suck to
juggling.
begin with, right?
True
Like,
that,
I mean,
true
some
that.
people need to work.
I mean,
a little
create
better.
a whole new you.
You need
and
a
stick with
character,
it. Yeah.
right? Be that person.
Be that one forever. But yeah, and I think what I love about people are so dogging on the millennials, but what I love is I think that they demand authentic stuff
Yeah.
and the real people, and that's who they watch and that's who they support,
Right.
and that's who's gaining ground right now. So it all ties.
Well, and
together.
I have been like I am a student first and foremost, and so this year or in 2017, one of my goals was to really start figuring out my personal brand, and I signed with an agency who really destroyed me. Like, they beat me down because I had created all of these rules. This is what a thought leader or expert looks like, and I had this whole, like, I called it a fembot, right? Like, the camera turned on and my fembot showed up.
Yeah.
okay.
And it's not anything like me, right? It's
Yeah.
very teachy and very professional and very
Yeah.
shiny plastic, right?
Right.
Because I thought that's how I had to. And they're like, you're killing yourself. Like, you're stupid. Like, I did one video 78 times, a 1-minute video 78 times, and got beat up every single time I sent it to
Really?
them. And they're like, until you can show up as the person who sits in this room with us,
Yeah.
you fail.
Wow.
Right. And it was so uncomfortable because I'm
Yeah.
like, well, if I really show up and people don't like me, then they don't like me.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
If
Yep.
I show up as my brand and people don't like my
Right.
brand, then I have
And
that
that's not
maybe-
me, right?
Right.
You
That's
have some
it's
distance from
just
it.
a stupid ego thing, right?
Yeah.
It
Like,
is,
we
yeah.
fear judgment. We're so hard on ourselves. And but what I've discovered, and I'm again still a student, very much kind of getting into my comfort level. I feel so super dorky and awkward every time I'm on camera for anything. I hate it. But I'm having fun with it because
Right.
I'm okay. Like,
Yeah.
I know how
Yes.
to operate. If something goes haywire, I own it. And I'm like, real life, working mom. Like,
Yep.
my dog comes in and barks. My daughter runs in asking for something, like in the middle of a live.
Right.
Hey,
Yeah.
this is
That's
my
just
life,
it.
y'all.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
Take it or leave it.
Yep.
Either you can do business with me or you can't, but this is who you're getting, and that's it. That's the best I can do, right? Is show up as myself. And it's hard though, because there's that judgment and that insecurity and that, if you put yourself out and you get roasted,
Right.
Then it's
that's,
you.
That's
it's
me,
happening
right?
To you,
Whereas if I'm a character or a professional or a thing, but people have no tolerance for characters anymore, and people don't trust overproduced, overpolished anything. You have to have a plan. That doesn't say turn your phone around and stream of consciousness and just hope people like you. Like you still have to have a brand and a personal brand and a marketing strategy. Yeah.
Yes.
You have to have some parameters, or people are going to think you're unhinged,
Right.
which doesn't serve you either.
That's another one.
Hot tip.
Brought it back.
Right.
So that's so good.
I'm so glad I think that's a good spot to circle back around to, because this whole concept of body language and how people experience you, and how you can get really detailed with it, and it can almost be paralyzing, like how are my hands and how am I, but I think starting with the place where you just said, where just show up as you and be consistently yourself, and start there, and that I think informs a lot of what the little granular tips are.
Yeah, and the great news is like I don't give anybody anything. Like when I work with clients, like you guys have everything you need. You have the entire skill set. Mm-hmm. It's just bringing awareness to it, understanding the science behind it, and then getting a plan to leverage that towards your success or towards whatever outcome that you want, whether it's being more influential, but whether it's increasing your sales, whether it's growing your client base, whatever your end game is, there is a set of tools that help you be more successful. But it's not complicated. I teach the same stuff to third graders as I do to CEOs.
Yeah.
Science is science, right? It's how do you apply the science in your life and the rooms you're walking into to get more of what you want.
That's
and
good.
so the skill part isn't hard. It isn't complex. It isn't complicated. It doesn't take, I love body language because it's a great equalizer. You don't have to be exceptionally intelligent. You don't have to have a lot of money. You don't have to be college educated, right? This levels the playing field. It's one of the few skills that's universally available to people, living in huts in Africa or major metropolitan areas. It doesn't matter. Everybody has the same advantage. It's just how well will you develop it and how will you utilize it and deploy that in your everyday life. But the kicker to this, right? You can automate the science, right? Like there's a handshake formula, there's all gazing patterns. You can learn all of this and just automate it, so you don't even have to think about it. You just know. Yeah. When I see contempt or I see anger or I see true happiness, I know, right? I don't even have to. I don't have to think about the process or the response methodology or any of that. It's just I know. But you got to quit tripping on your head trash, right? Like when it, the self-worth, the worth,
that's a really great
the confidence,
term.
because most of the things, like I work with traditionally from a resume standpoint, very successful people.
And now us also.
Right. Very successful people.
And now also you work with us now.
You're rounding out your portfolio with us.
But here's the thing, right? Everybody trips on something.
Yeah.
Everyone has that story from when they were on the playground in second grade and somebody told them they weren't meant for this or that wasn't meant for you or you're not good enough for this or absentee parent or narcissistic mother. Like everybody's got something. And until I can teach you skills all day long. Right. But until you address and take ownership of what it is you're really tripping over, like it's a Band-Aid. It's not a fix, right?
That's right.
Do you find, just walk me through your journey real quick in terms of studying body language?
We're
from
going
the
to need another show.
We won't, it'll be, it sounds like it's going to be a long question, but it's going to be a short one. But so starting from the very beginning days up until where you are, obviously you start studying body language, then body language, and then you become like it embodies you, right? Yeah. Is there, kind of going back to Terry's point, is there a point in the middle where you're a little bit paralyzed because you're so focused on it? I mean, eventually you get to the point where it's just natural. Is there a point where you're so focused on it that it kind of hinders you? Kind
of. Like it's anything else, right? There's awareness and adaptation and discomfort and, the phases of change management very much apply to this, even personal development wise. But so I have my business story of how I got into this, but the personal story is that I operated from a space of very low awareness and it bit me in the ass hardcore. Tanked my marriage, tanked my business, total devastation. Primarily, I own almost all of that because I chose to I chose to willfully not see, or I didn't have the skills to see what was going on around me, right?
Really?
So by the time I had awareness of it, it was crisis mode. Like the whole situation had been nuked.
Yeah.
So from a personal standpoint, I'm not going to position myself to experience that again. It's
Okay.
really painful, very expensive. Failure is really expensive, right?
Right.
Like
Not
getting
only-
divorced is expensive. Going bankrupt costs you money. Who knew,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I got the awareness, the urgency for awareness was heightened because I had the pain of knowing what happens when you don't,
Yeah.
right? So part of my personal, passion around this is helping other people not have to have that awareness brought to them, like
Yeah.
be proactive in developing it. But there are some things that as I learn certain skills, I'm like, oh my God, like this explains so much,
Yeah.
right? Like one of the things, there's 3 types of gazing patterns that you never just look eyeball to eyeball with somebody. You bounce between eyes and then you either go up the face or down the face, depending on your level of comfort and your intentions and a whole bunch of like internal stuff happening.
So nervous. I'm gonna just keep my eyes closed while you're talking,
Yeah,
and just
that's
peek
right.
at you.
Just
No.
look away.
Because I've
So-
been staring at you this whole time.
No. It's good. It's good. So
fun, though.
so there's power gaze, which is like a pattern where if you're unknown entities, like new clients, business meetings, people you don't really have relationship with, it's kind of a default gaze that shows respect, and it isn't too personal or informal. So that goes eye, forehead. So it's like eyes and above,
Okay.
right? And so that's where you would expect to see a normal business meeting kind of happen. And then as you build relationship or you get familiar or you decide you like somebody, it's eye, mouth. So you move down the face, right? And
I've
you
been
can
looking at her mouth.
you can
I just,
sit
I
because you
like
like
you.
me
I
because
do.
we're gonna
Yeah.
tickle fight later. It's fine. Yeah. But you can see this in real time as you have client meetings or to see if if someone's warming up to you, you can see the gaze actually shift across the
Down.
table from you, and you're like, okay, we're making progress. We're moving
Really?
into
So if
to
you see them
partnership.
looking at your mouth,
Right.
then you're feeling better. This is warming
There's
up.
some sort of connection there.
Nice.
They see you more on friendly terms now,
Okay.
right? They're more
Okay.
invested in you, I guess would be a good way to say it.
Okay.
But then there's a third type of gazing that's called intimate gazing, that is eye, upper chest. And this is
I've had that before.
right. Get your heads out of the gutter. It's not as dirty as it sounds. But it's this, and again, caveman brain, right?
Yeah.
As we're assessing people for cave baby capabilities, right?
Yeah.
You can tell a lot about hardiness, health, fertility by looking at someone from their mouth to their shoulders, right? There's signs of estrogen, signs of testosterone, there's signs of nourishment, strong
interesting.
teeth, healthy skin, shininess
Yeah.
of hair, right? All of these things are biological cues of we would make good cave babies together
Yeah.
that would survive these harsh conditions, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but
Guys out.
we have not evolved that much.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So gazing patterns for dating cues and relationship cues, intimate gazing still signals interest. And if you get mutual intimate gazing, then that's like maybe ask for the second date because you're both
Okay.
kind of vibing on each other. Right.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of practical application to this. But
Yeah.
what I discovered, to bring it back to your question, is I am a default intimate gazer.
Oh yeah.
I almost always go
Really?
straight into intimate gaze just out of curiosity. I don't want to make cave babies with anybody, right? Men, women, doesn't matter. I intimate gaze. I do an up down. Like
always,
it's
like,
data
you've always
points.
done that, or
Yeah.
since you started
No,
studying body
I've
language?
always done it, but
Yeah.
I didn't know I was
you were
doing
doing
it.
it.
And the intention that it could be giving people, I'm like, oh my God, this explains so much awkward in my life. Because I'm giving the cues of intention of assessment for mating and dating capability when I don't have any interest at all.
Yeah.
Right. So now I'm like, oh wow, that just summed up a whole lot of like mysteries for me in my life. I'm like, oh, I asked for that and didn't even know it. And so now the lesson in that for me is when I'm meeting new people or I'm going in to work with corporate clients, I have to literally say to myself, eyes and above.
Really?
Yeah.
Like I have to
Wow.
put that thought in my brain, or I will just meet you and
Naturally.
up down. And then some people that are clued into that are like, "Oh, she digs me. She wants to
Yeah.
go out." Like, no, I really don't. But I see,
Wow.
but it's my fault that you thought that
Yeah.
because I
Yeah,
just
wow.
cued you
Gave you
in.
that.
I just hit your biological trigger of assessment. That
So now everybody's evaluating themselves
Yeah.
and what do they do, and nobody
Wow.
knows. It's amazing, and that's where we're going to stop for today too. Unbelievable, right?
Cliffhanger.
But the good thing is there are going to be people that want to hear more about this from you
Yeah.
and
Yes.
learn more from you.
I would
with
hope so.
All
This
the
is
things I know,
fun stuff, man.
It is fun stuff. With all the things you're doing, where do you want people to reach out to you, connect with you, find you online, all that good stuff?
Yeah, well, once you start, you can't get away from me. I'm a little too comfortable with video now, so I do a
that's
lot.
great.
Powerbodylanguage.com is the best place. And if anybody, I did an online course. It's a 10 self-paced 10 video deep dive on eye gazing, building trust, everything we talked about today and a whole lot more.
Yeah.
And it's powerbodylanguage.com/courses.
Okay.
And if your listeners and viewers want to use the code POWER, they'll get 10% off my course.
Oh, boom.
Awesome.
So that's a great place to start if you aren't maybe ready for one-on-one coaching or you just want to find out more and get a few tips and tricks that you can use easily. That's a great place to start to learn more about it.
Yeah.
I do a ton of stuff on Instagram stories. Like I creep in the coffee shop a lot and give little like body language tests. I might have done it here before we started.
That's
You may not know. So that is on,
gotta get on there
on
and stat.
Instagram. I'm at Lisa Mitchell Indy, INDY.
Okay.
So I do lots of shenanigans on Instagram.
Oh, that's good stuff.
Yeah, and then Facebook. I do Facebook Lives and do a bunch of stuff on there. So it's just Power Body Language on Facebook.
Okay.
/Power Body.
Do you remember
Language.
the show that was on Comedy Central where they would watch a movie and it'd be like 3 robots in the front row?
Yes, millennial.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
1000,
Mystery
4000.
Science.
Mystery Science 2000. Like,
What'd you say? Speak into your mic, Christian.
I feel like that'd be awesome.
You
Just
just
like have her
live
sit out in
comment.
a park and she's
So
like
good.
videotaping people because you're in public.
I
setting.
creep on people. Like if the line's long at Starbucks, I'll just video a meeting and say, "How do you think this interview is going?" Or "How's this date
that's
going?"
awesome.
Right? Because I like to decode dates when I'm out in the wild and be
love
like,
it.
"Yeah, that's never going to
Out
happen."
in the wild, she's catapulted to one of my favorite people of all time.
Yes.
No joke. And like,
Yes.
But sometimes it comes back. Do we have a second for a quick story? Or do we
Do
need
it.
to
Do
wrap
it.
up?
Yeah.
Okay, so I did a corporate. I'm often doing corporate training sessions. So there's big rooms full of people, and I don't know everybody that's in the room, right? And so I went to. I did another corporate event for a conference last year, and this guy came up to me afterwards, and he's like, "Okay, so I have to tell you." He's like, "You did a session at Aces recently, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And he's like, "I wasn't there, but my friend was. And then that weekend he went to the Colts game and sat right beside you and a guy, and he didn't think it was going well. He read your body language and you were turned away." So I'm
No
sitting
way.
right in the wild, and I'm like, good, because we're not
it
like
right?
he's a
Yeah.
friend. Like I have no interest in him romantically at all. So he read it right.
Yeah.
Tell him I
Strong
gave him an
girl.
imaginary gold star.
Yeah.
But this is starting like to randomly happen to me. I was in Patachou one day and waiting for a table, and this guy comes up to me. He's like, "Lisa Mitchell," and he shakes my hand and he flips my wrist up, which is one of the things we talk about power dynamics. And he starts laughing maniacally. And he's got his wife and 2 of his kids, and there's like 8 of them standing there, and he's like going off about how fun that session was and how he
Yeah.
uses this stuff all the time.
That's
So it's weird. I forget that people have seen me.
Yeah.
And so, like, people are decoding my dates.
Yeah, they're gonna
or
mess with you
what
now,
they
right?
think are my dates in
That's
the
so
wild.
good.
I'm like, did you put me on Instagram for that? Like, because you need some context, my friend. You
It's
know,
like-
the 5
Before you
C's.
start.
You did not use your context filter.
Anything weird that we did, it's because we're playing you, and
That's
we're
right.
just
Thank you.
just to mess with you. But we
We are
already-
well-versed.
We're in on the joke, my friend. That's
Yeah.
right, ladies and gentlemen. Lisa
Yeah.
Mitchell, unbelievable, good stuff. We do want to hear from you. Info at BoomRealEstatePodcast.com. Find us on iTunes. Find us on YouTube or this Facebook Live. But thank you for being with us today.
Thanks
that was
for having me.
so much fun.
Awesome.
Boom, Real Estate Podcast. Fire that outro music.
Yay.
All fill time. Oh, you gotta talk about that. I guess iTunes, YouTube. We got the Boom 30 giveaway.
That's right.
Power body language, all that.
Megan,
Megan?
I'm eyeing you and down. Eyeing you and down.
yeah.
We're married. We can
You're
do that.
Making it weird. Stop. Stop. The podcast is over. The
love your
podcast
baby.
is over.
I love your babies.
We're not lying.